Today we're going to be talking about what does a mortgage lender actually do. So this video is for real estate agents, for buyers, and for some people considering being a mortgage lender. Now, if you're new to the channel, say it with me. I'm licensed in 48 states. And I am a mortgage lender and have been for over 15 years. It's kind of like getting older. I have no idea how old I am, but I know it's older than that. So, what does a mortgage lender actually do? Let me be very frank here. Some mortgage lenders do not do what they're supposed to do. So this video is really to tell you what a mortgage lender is supposed to do so that if you're working with someone who's not doing that, you leave them. Or if you're going to become a mortgage lender, you do it the right way. Or if you're a real estate agent and you're like, oh gosh, I refer all my business to Paul. He does none of that. You stop. Because here's the thing, it's really simple. A mortgage lender's job is to get the loan for the buyer. It's also our job to make sure that the buyer understands the financial situation that we're putting them into. That is the part that most lenders do not do. Okay, so what am I talking about? What's my job? So my job is you fill out your application. As a loan originator, as your loan officer, I am going to ultimately be the one structuring your file. Okay, what that means is that based on my knowledge of guidelines, my knowledge of how to close loans, I'm going to be setting up your loan so that you have the highest chance of success. Okay, very important. So if you're going to be a loan officer, you better know your guidelines inside and out. And if you're a real estate agent and you're like, oh, but they're charming, do they know their guidelines? Because literally, the most important part of my job is knowing how to structure a loan. In order to know how to structure a loan, I need to understand guidelines. Yep, cannot stress it enough. There's a lot of lenders that just go out and go get clients and then they think they'll learn guidelines. That's not the way it works. You've got to know your guidelines and you have to know them well enough that you can argue with an underwriter if need be. Think about it as if you were going to court and you had an attorney. It's the attorney's job to make sure that they've prepared your case so that you have the highest chance of success with the judge. That is what the individual loan officer does. We structure your file so that you have the highest chance of success with the underwriter. That's why you'll hear me on videos all the time being like, oh my God, don't just shop on rate and fee. You need to know about the loan officer. Check their reviews. And I stress it so much because, look, someone can quote you the lowest rate in the world, but if they don't know how to structure your loan, it's never going to close. Okay, so number one, the loan officer's job is to structure your loan based on guidelines so you have the highest chance of success with the underwriter. Number two, the loan officer's job is to lock your rate. Now look, in certain circumstances like myself, I have a team that is also licensed. Very important. Only licensed loan officers lock rates. Okay, and when I say loan officers, it's like, for instance, I have assistants, right? But they have all the same licensing as a loan officer. And some of them were loan officers in the past. The key is they are licensed to lock your loan. What I'll hear sometimes is, oh, well, yeah, their assistant. I'm like, is their assistant even licensed? They're like, oh, no, they're not. But she said she just does it under his. No. A loan officer's job is to lock your rate. It's also our job to understand how rates work, to be able to talk to you about what's going on in the market, what you should expect. Look, none of us have a crystal ball. So if someone's telling you this is definitively what's going to happen, I wouldn't trust that. You know, I talk to people who get paid millions of dollars a year to say what they think are going to happen with rates. They're wrong half the time. Okay, so definitely be aware of that. But yeah, it's the loan officer's job to lock the rate. It's also the loan officer's job to make sure your file goes through the process in time. So if you're purchasing a house and it's a 20-day close, the loan officer has to make sure that your loan is ready to go and close within 20 days. It's going to affect when they order the appraisal. It's going to affect how quickly they get your file to underwriting if they haven't fully underwritten it. It's going to affect how they reach out to title for documents. They are in charge of this. So if you are like, oh, loan officers are all the same. No, they're not. No, they're not, guys. I'm telling you right now, do I want a super laid back, oh yeah, we'll get those disclosures out in a week or 3. No, I want a loan officer that's on point. You know why? Because if you don't close on time, guess what? The seller can cancel your contract. In many cases, they can keep your money. How does this affect the loan officer? They lose a paycheck, but it's not them losing the money, it's you. So it's the loan officer's job to get you from pre-approved to close within whatever the contract period is, okay? Now look, sometimes is there gonna be stuff that makes it so it takes longer to close? Yeah, like if the appraisal comes in lower, is that the loan officer's fault? No. But it is our job to make sure everyone knows the appraisal came in lower and what the options are so that the real estate agents can work on your behalf to try to find a solution, okay? Very, very important. Now, what a loan officer also does that people don't recognize is a lot of times, you know, we're a little bit man in the middle, and our job is to work for the buyer, and I am very clear on that. But what can happen sometimes is you'll have a listing agent that's trying to get information about the buyer from the loan officer. The loan officer should not be giving that information out. So if you're a real estate agent and the loan officer you're working with keeps on telling the listing agent everything, that's bad because they're giving up the buyer's confidential information. They're also hurting your ability to negotiate. As a buyer, same thing. The seller shouldn't know, the listing agent shouldn't know much more than, yep, we've got, this is done or this is done. Most of the time, there's very little that I'll answer with a listing agent because stuff is simple as, yeah, we've got them fully underwritten, they're approved, the appraisal came back in fine. That sounds harmless, right? What if the buyer's agent's trying to negotiate for something and guess what? The listing agent goes, well, I heard the appraisal was fine, so we're good. You just gave up the buyer's ability to negotiate. So I'm super careful with what I say. There's some companies where they don't even talk to the listing agent and people get really mad about that. I think it's great. Honestly, I think it's great because the only people that your lender should speak to beyond yourself is your real estate agent, and that's with your permission. I've had clients where they're like, please do not tell my real estate agent anything, and I honor that. And I don't say to the real estate agent, oh, they told me not to tell you anything. I just don't answer the question, right? And some people are like, well, wait, the real estate agent's gonna be mad at you. I work for the buyer. That's what I need to stress to everyone. Whether it's a buyer, it's a real estate agent, or a lender, the lender works for the buyer. That is who they should work for. And in this industry, it can get a little bit muddy. Now, what else is the lender's responsibility? I say it all the time. If something goes sideways, it's my booty that has to fix it, right? It's my name on that dotted line. It's my name as the loan originator. So if there's something that's happening with underwriting, I have to be able to defend my position about how I structured your loan. So when I'm looking at structuring your loan, and for anyone who's had a phone call with me, sometimes people will catch me on the weekend and chime in if you've had this happen. And I ask questions that are pretty intense. And I'll be like, hey, yeah, when you apply, I want a letter of explanation for this, for that, for this, for this. Tell me more about this, tell me more about that. Like, it's intense. It's not like, hey, yeah, nothing like that. Hell no. It's intense. And the reason's this. I'm trying to figure out if I can argue the situation to an underwriter. A lot of times these calls are something where maybe another lender's declining it. And the reason the other lender is declining it is because they structured it wrong all the time. It's stupid stuff. It's like, oh, they said my debt to income was too high. Okay, do you have any debt you can pay off? Yeah, I do. Okay, great, let's fix it. Done. Or it's something with a letter of explanation. Maybe the buyer has some sort of rocky employment history or not traditional. Often with a letter of explanation, we can have that make sense. That's what underwriters are looking for. They're looking to put the puzzle pieces together in a way that makes sense. And that is what a lender's supposed to do. We're supposed to be able to package your file so that the underwriter reviews it, goes, yeah, this makes sense, this matches guides, let's go. Okay? So that is what a lender is supposed to do. As a buyer, as a real estate agent, make sure you're working with someone who's experienced. Do research on them. You know, if you're a new loan officer, I'm not hating on you, but you need to learn your guides at least. I'm on so many forums where I see people saying, yeah, I just got my license, I need to get some leads. And I'm the person that's like, hey, did you learn your guides? No, my broker told me to get the leads and then they'll teach me. Okay, so basically you're trying to get business from people, but you don't know how to structure a loan, so their chance of success is lower. Yeah, definitely get some leads, bro. So you really want to watch out for that, because that's the thing. I don't think people realize, you know, the intricacies of a loan in terms of how easily it could go sideways if it wasn't structured correctly. And that is something that I see a lot because we do a lot of rescue deals. And it's one of the reasons that I think it's important that you understand a lender's job, the loan officer, it's my job to structure your loan. Okay? Now look, if I structure your loan and you quit your job, that's on you. That's not on me. I'm not taking that. But if I structure your loan, I'm going to be trying to make sure I have everything to make sure that the underwriter is going to be happy with it. And here's the thing too, I like to fully underwrite all of my pre-approvals. That's something a lender can do. It depends on the company, it depends on the lender. But I like to fully underwrite all my pre-approvals, so anything that might be an issue, we work out up front. Also, there's some loans where as an originator, you look at it, right? Originator, loan officer, same thing. And you go, I don't know. You know, this is going to be 50-50. It's going to depend on the underwriter because there's certain programs where the underwriters have a lot of sway, VA and FHA especially. So I like to make sure I'm submitting those files as best to my ability to see how they react. And sometimes I'm like, if I'm like, they could turn it down because of this, and they do, I'm like, you know, we tried. And if we structure it correctly, great. So here's the thing. If I sat down and I actually said, what do I think my job is, right? Look, I do think it's my job to tell you about closing costs, to tell you about payments, to talk about rates, to lock your rate. And that is definitely a very important part of my job. But in all honesty, I could easily have a licensed team member do that. If I sit down and I go, what do I actually bring to the table that makes me different? Why have I been successful, right? Some people would be like, oh, it's because you're on YouTube. Yeah, YouTube's definitely helped, but I was a pretty big loan officer before I even got on YouTube. Why? It was my ability to structure, and it was my ability to handle deals when they got rocky. Yeah, like the appraisal came in low, the listing agent and the buyer's agent are fighting over patio furniture. It's being able to negotiate those circumstances, keep everybody happy, keep the buyer's best interest at heart, because that's the thing, the buyer is my client, and get out of that rocky weather. That is how I originally built my business. My business used to be 100% real estate agent referral, and it was because of my ability to close. And my ability to close was tied to my ability to structure. So when you guys are looking for loan officers, a lot of times people are like, I just want the lowest rate, the lowest fee. Guys, you can totally be lied to on the phone about that. Until a lender actually locks your rate, it means nothing. Look for someone who can get you to the finish line. Look for someone who understands how the loans work. Look for someone who's asking you questions. Don't just go with, yeah, our rates are the lowest. Sign now. You need a structurer, not a salesperson, okay? And look, there's a lot of people that think a loan officer's job's just a salesperson. It's not the way loans work. When stuff gets real, when a file's about to get declined, the loan officer is the one that's going to have to fight for it. So ask yourself, who do you want fighting for you? Who do you want structuring your loan? And if you're a loan officer or want to be a loan officer and you're watching this, right now, guys, you work for the client. Don't forget that. You do what's in their best interest, even if it means you don't get paid. And you learn your guidelines like you were an underwriter. And you make sure you're looking at every file as glass half full as possible and finding a way to make it complete. You do that, you'll do great. So I hope this video was helpful. I know it was a little bit everywhere. I think it's because I was trying to help all three audiences, but I've been thinking about this a lot. People ask this question, and I don't think people actually understand that one of the biggest things a loan officer does is structure. Thanks for watching.